An Epidemic of Acquiescence. Suppose that a teenager somewhere in Ohio showed up at school yesterday morning in a bathing suit, announcing that he should be free to wear anything he finds comfortable and telling the principal defiantly, "My parents agree with me and my dad is a lawyer." It's safe to predict that this episode would become an instant media sensation. Within hours, bloggers and cable TV pundits would be citing it as an example of what kids these days are like. The primary debate in online forums would pit those who blamed the out-of-control kids against those who blamed their spineless, overindulgent parents. But a couple of million students in Ohio didn't do anything like that yesterday. They dressed in a way that adults deemed acceptable, showed up on time, grew silent on command, sat passively as their teachers lectured at them, obediently pulled out their textbooks and worksheets, and in the evening did pretty much whatever their parents told them to do. True, some kids may have misbehaved, or complied only reluctantly and sullenly, but by and large, the student in the bathing suit, who will be cited as evidence for a familiar array of generalizations, is an aberration. That much is unsurprising. But this hypothetical scenario raises an important question. Is it possible that not everything all those obedient kids were told to do, and did, was really worth doing? That many of the rules they followed weren't entirely justified? Could it be, in other words, that the proper cause for concern is not our underdressed outlier, but all those good children who failed to question, think critically, and respond with the appropriate measure of independent thought? Most children seem eager, even desperate, to please those in authority, reluctant to rock the boat, even when the boat clearly needs rocking. In a way, an occasional roll-your-eyes story of excess in the other direction marks the exception that proves the rule, and the rule is a silent epidemic of obedience. For every kid who is slapped with the label oppositional defiant disorder, hundreds suffer from what one educator has mischievously called compliance acquiescent disorder. The symptoms of CAD, he explained, include the following: defers to authority, actively obeys rules, fails to argue back, knuckles under instead of mobilizing others in support, and stays restrained when outrage is warranted. The joke here, of course, is that these symptoms are widely celebrated as proof of successful socialization. Perhaps that's because adults, who can think of no higher honorific to bestow on a child than well-behaved, are themselves reluctant to question and speak out. All around us we find people who sound like Robert Frost's neighbor, the man who, quote, will not go beyond his father's saying. My argument, in sum, is that the real alternative to narcissistic self-absorption is not mindless obedience, but reflective rebelliousness. And even though there is no credible evidence that narcissistic self-absorption is more common in today's youth than it was in those of previous generations, promoting reflective rebelliousness still seems like a pretty good idea.
Note this excerpt is taken from Alfie Kohn's book, Myth of the Spoiled Child, available on Amazon. This video was not made by Kohn or anybody involved with him or his book.